So I posted an article, an opinion piece this morning about the Xbox One, and I titled it, "It's Game Over for the Xbox One." And I have to admit, I do love poking the hornet's nest. I like to fan the flames of the console wars from time to time, partly because it's amusing to me. It's amusing to get a reaction. And, I confess, you got me. Dead to rights. That's clickbait. So, so is it game over for the Xbox One? That's the question. Headlines aside, and a little fun with clickbait aside, let's let's look at where the Xbox One is at right now. It's playing second fiddle to the PlayStation 4. I mean, that's just without a doubt the truth. It it got off to a really rough start. It had a lot of controversy surrounding its launch, with the Kinect, with some policies that Microsoft walked back, such as some strange ideas about used games, always online requirements, and so forth. We all know those at this point, but that did not get off on very good footing. And by January of this year, the estimates are at PlayStation 4 selling twice as many units as Xbox One, and they've been out roughly the same amount of time. So this is a huge departure from the Xbox 360, PS3 days, where both systems were pretty neck and neck. I mean, not the entire time, but ultimately the levels balanced out between the two. Twice as many units is a big deal. And even if you take and you say, okay, well, it's closer in the United States, that's fine, that's fair. The systems do sell more evenly in the United States. It's still also true that the PlayStation 4 has more exclusives, especially this year, and has more valuable exclusivity deals with games like Destiny 2, the Call of Duty franchise, and so forth. So the Xbox One is, doing worse, objectively worse than the PlayStation 4. This is not an opinion. This is simply fact. Now you could say, well, the games on the Xbox One are better than the PlayStation 4, and that becomes a subjective opinion. Personally, I love some of the Xbox One exclusives. I'm a big fan of the Halo franchise, especially. But Halo is not enough, obviously not enough, to keep the Xbox One competitive. And, Microsoft has canceled a number of titles for the Xbox One. Scalebound, which looks really cool. Fable Legends. There is no sign of a new Fable game for Xbox One, which would be amazing. A current gen Fable game would be really cool. So in a lot of ways, despite people like Phil Spencer's best efforts, Xbox One is lagging behind. That is fact. It's just true. But the important question, it's not, we can play a pissing contest over which console is better, which console is doing better. We can do that till the cows come home, and that's fine. We will never agree. There will be Xbox fanboys and PlayStation fanboys and whatever. And a lot of people think I have an agenda, that I am some huge PlayStation advocate, fanboy. This huge PS4 fanboy who was super critical of Horizon Zero Dawn and got yelled at by tons of Sony fanboys just a few weeks ago over that. But obviously I have a hidden agenda. I'll tell you my hidden agenda. It's not hidden, first of all. My agenda is my philosophy that competition is good for the industry, and that having multiple platform holders is healthy for the industry. If we only had PlayStation, this would be a very bad thing. PlayStation having huge dominance on the market is also a bad thing. I think a more competitive Xbox is a desirable outcome. In other words, my post today was not a cheerleading post for the Sony PlayStation. It was a discussion of the importance of competition and what will make the Xbox One more competitive, which ties into my belief that the Scorpio is a good thing. I'm glad that we're getting the Scorpio, and I'm glad that it's going to be more powerful, and I think that that's needed for competition. But is a more powerful gaming console enough to bring parity to the market? Will everybody who bought an Xbox One go buy a Scorpio? Will people from the PlayStation side switch over to Scorpio once it's out just because it's more powerful? I don't think so. I think that it's really going to come down to games and content and exclusives. And complicating this is the fact that there's the Play Anywhere system now, where Microsoft is offering, buy Gears of War 4, and if you buy it on Xbox One, you get it on PC, and vice versa. So you get basically a 2-for-1, which is super cool, but it makes the Xbox platform a lot less necessary. Again, when the next Halo comes out, can we just get it on PC and just skip Xbox altogether? That's great, but it's not great for Xbox necessarily. But content really does matter, and other things matter too. The specs matter, and I think a more powerful Scorpio is going to be interesting. I don't know if it will do well based on power alone, but if the graphics look really phenomenal and they look better than PlayStation, that will give them an edge. But without a really compelling reason to upgrade, it really makes it a little bit murkier on what consumers are going to do, which is one reason that I've argued that the Scorpio should be a new system that's backwards compatible with Xbox One. I doubt it will be. It's just that I think it's time for Microsoft to release a new console and not just an upgraded console. The PS4 Pro is kind of a lackluster, boring addition to the PlayStation line. I mean, it's almost unnecessary. The differences in most games, is pretty subtle. And only those few consumers who have an HDR 4K TV are going to see really any difference. And even then, how noticeable is that difference? Not that much. I have both a PlayStation and a PlayStation 4. I have them, one hooked up to a 4K TV and the Pro hooked up to a 4K OLED with HDR. And yes, it looks better, but does it really affect my gaming experience that much? Not really. So if I'm a consumer and I have an Xbox One and the Scorpio comes out, how likely am I going to be to go spend another $400, $500? Some people are saying $600. I can't imagine that they release this at $600, but who knows? Am I going to go upgrade? If it does all the same games, if developers are making the same games for both systems, how much better are they really going to look on the Scorpio? Whereas if they simply made games backwards compatible with the Scorpio and then had a new base level of quality, fidelity, and whatnot for the Scorpio, then all the new games coming out for that system, they wouldn't work on the regular Xbox One, but they'd look amazing on the Scorpio, and this would give people a real reason to upgrade. And that may change the dynamic of the console wars in Microsoft's favor. At this point, Sony has such a lead, but with a do-over, with a fresh start rather than a refresh, Microsoft could theoretically drive a lot of hype and turn the tide back in favor of the Xbox platform to where maybe we see Call of Duty moving back over to having its map packs released first on Xbox and so forth. So that's my real point here, and I use the clickbait to kind of stir and the sort of outrageous headline to stir up a little controversy, to get people talking, and partly because it just amuses me, and I have an evil side, but I'm not above confessing to my sins, and that was definitely me poking the hornet's nest. But really beyond that, if you look beyond that sort of initial this awful, horrible Sony shill is talking crap about Xbox, I'm actually not talking crap about Xbox. I think the Xbox One made a lot of mistakes. I think the Kinect was a huge mistake. The price point was a mistake. The fact that it's less powerful than the PS4 is a mistake. Hands down, there's just a lot of things that went wrong with the Xbox One. But I want Microsoft to still be a player in the market. I want there to be these two rivals because Nintendo's kind of its own thing. They do their own thing, and I think it's a really good thing, but Nintendo isn't competing as directly with Microsoft or Sony as those two are with each other. So I want to see those two competing, with gusto. I want the console war. I don't like the console war, like the way that it makes fans so emotional and hateful and spiteful and mean. But I do think the competition is good because it's just like with Intel and AMD or Nvidia and these different chip makers. If there wasn't competition, they wouldn't have nearly as much motivation to keep on putting out newer and better chips. And I think this brings up another point. There is some sort of diminishing return that we've seen lately with graphics. More powerful graphics cards are not as important as they were a few years ago because graphics cards from 2 years ago can still play most games pretty well. You don't need to upgrade. Yeah, you're going to get better frame rates and whatnot. Yeah, the most graphics intensive games are going to look better, but a lot of games are going to run just fine. Maybe not at full spec, but on a graphics card from a few years ago. And really the difference between, the PS2 and the PS3 was a lot more drastic than between the PS3 and the PS4. And I think that, between the PS4 and the PS5, the same thing is going to be true. And between the Xbox One and the Scorpio, it's 4.5 times more powerful, but are games going to be 4.5 times better? No. Are they going to look 4.5 times better? Probably not. They're going to look better. But how much better can they possibly look? Real evangelists of ever increasing realism in games and higher and higher fidelity often forget that this comes at a cost. I mean, these are expensive games to make. Making a very powerful console means that a lot of very huge budgets are going to be required to make these games, and the price of games isn't going up. $60 is real firm, but this just means that these more expensive games are either going to do poorly, and we're going to see more fragility in the market, or we're going to have more DLC, more microtransactions, more schemes to get subscriptions, and various other ways for these companies to recoup the costs, and they have no choice there. It's not a greed issue even at this point, but if you're having games with $200 million, $300 million budgets, they have to sell a lot of copies, and then they have to sell a lot of add-ons to fund these huge, monstrously expensive games. So is Scorpio a step in the right direction just for the market, for the industry? I don't know. But more competition is good. I swear to God, at some point, gamers are just going to have to accept the price of games going up too. I mean, $59.99. With the cost of development, with inflation, it should be probably more like $79.99 at this point for a video game. And when you're this isn't going to be a popular opinion, but when you're buying a game that gives you 100 hours or more of entertainment, I don't see the problem in an $80 game. I mean, games didn't used to be that big, ever hardly, and now we're judging games based on wanting dozens of hours of content and replay value and added content and living games where there's festivals and events and all these different things going on. Well, that's expensive, and at a certain point, all these sort of greedy, shady things that we see publishers doing. They're greedy, shady companies, totally. But this is an increasingly expensive industry, and it makes a lot of money. But I don't want to see all these publishers just move into mobile. I don't want to see the collapse of the AAA market. I like indie games, but then I don't want to just play mobile games and indie games. Like, I like my big budget AAA games, and anyways, I've gotten well far afield from our initial discussion, and I do apologize for that. But, Xbox One versus PS4, I hope that Xbox and PS4 can do battle into eternity and push each other to great new heights. And I hope the PS4 is given a run for its money by the Scorpio. There's a lot of angry people at me today who are trying to paint me into a corner thinking that, well, the Scorpio is going to come and it'll show you. Like, that's what I'm saying here, guys. I'm saying that the Scorpio might have a chance to give the PS4 a run for its money finally. But here's what I think needs to come with it. It should probably be its own system. It won't be, but it should be. And it needs to have really great games. We need a Fable. We need another Halo. Microsoft needs to stop canceling games, and they need to find a way to create new franchises that are really good and really exclusive to Xbox. And I don't know, maybe they've backed themselves into a corner with this Play Anywhere system, or Play Anywhere program or whatever. But anyways, that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. You can shout at me in the comments, like or unlike this video, and subscribe to my channel. Why don't you? I'm almost at 3,000 subscribers now, which is like the big times, right? Peace.